Hello, everyone. Welcome into our webinar today. I am Morgan. I'm so excited to have you here to do some pre-nursing. We're going to look at some anatomy and physiology, that's science. So let me know where you guys are joining from. I'm excited to have you all with me. Hi, Lisa. Your cameras do not turn on. You are good. Just me that has my camera on, so you do not need to worry about that. Get our timer to go away there. And yeah, you guys let me know where you are joining from. All right, we've got Kuwait. Hi, Samari. I recognize your name. I'm so glad you are here and ready to learn. That's what we're here to do. Love that. And we have Erlinda from New York, from Douglasville, Georgia. Lovely. Love to hear that. We've got Lisa over here from California. Keisha from Colombia. Wonderful. Oh, that is so good. Awesome. From SVG. Okay. Good deal. Let's get this rolling over here. Welcome, and Eliza. Glad to have you. Okay, from Florida, from New Jersey. So we've got people from all over, whether it is morning or evening. I am so thankful that you all are here with us. Again, for those of you just popping on here, my name is Dr. Morgan Taylor, and I'm a nurse. I'm a pediatric nurse. I've always worked with kids. They're my favorite. And I started Archer Review back in 2019 to help more people get into nursing school, actually enjoy nursing school, and graduate, pass, and go on to be amazing nurses. Yeah, it's not that easy, and I think it should be a little bit easier. So today, of course, we're really focused on you guys getting into nursing school and not making it so painful. We all know you have to take those entrance exams. So some of you will take the TEAS. I know HESI is another one. Let me know in the comments what exam you are studying for. Maybe some of you have already gotten into nursing school and you're getting ready for those anatomy and physiology courses. We also see some anatomy on the NCLEX. So no matter what stage you guys are in, if you're studying for TEAS, HESI, NCLEX, this lecture is applicable for you. We've really got a lot covered in when we talk about anatomy. And for all of you hoping to go to nursing school after you pass your TEAS, let me tell you that this anatomy is going to do a lot for you. It is really an essential part of everything that you learn, not just in that anatomy prereq course, but on into nursing fundamentals and medical surgical and everything you do. It always comes back to anatomy. So I promise no matter where you are at in your nursing journey, looks we have quite a few for TEAS, med surge, T7, T's, okay, a lot of T's. That is wonderful. No matter where you are, this lecture is hopefully really, really going to be helpful for you guys. So we have kind of broken the anatomy down into a few different sections because it's impossible to talk all about it in just one little lecture, and you guys would not want to hear me talk for that long. So today is part 2 of 5 parts that I have broken down for you guys. And we are going to be focusing on just 2 systems. We've got the digestive system and the nervous system. So I had somebody, Jan Paul said memory and with GI. So GI, gastrointestinal, that's our digestive system. And we are definitely going to be looking at that today. So let's go ahead and jump in. I'm going to get rid of our timer here since we're getting ready to get started. Give me a thumbs up if you are ready to go. Hopefully everyone is already logged on. I don't see any more people trickling in, so I think it's time to make it happen. Okay. Beautiful, beautiful. Seeing thumbs up, which means we are ready to rock. And I start out all of our anatomy lectures when we look at each system, really thinking about, okay, why do we even have this system in our body? What is the purpose of it? So, with digestive system, our GI system, there are three big things I want you to think of. First, it's got to break down all our food. Second, it has to absorb all the goodness that comes in our food, all those proteins and carbs and fat. We got to absorb those into our body. And then, third, last but not least, we got to get rid of the bad stuff. The things that weren't protein, carbs, fats that our body doesn't need, we have to get rid of it. So, all in all, that is what the digestive system does for you. We'll start with that first reason that we have it, digestion. That is the process of breaking food and drinks down. We have to break them down into much smaller molecules that actually can be absorbed into the bloodstream. Okay. We can't just eat a bagel and all those carbohydrates go right into our blood. Those carbohydrates have to be broken down into a glucose molecule. Same with protein. We eat a chicken sandwich, all that chicken, those proteins need to be broken down to amino acids. That's what's absorbed into our bloodstream and can really help our cells. So, two big ways that we break down the food, we have mechanical digestion and chemical digestion. And obviously this makes sense. I'm sure you guys have got this. Mechanical is like we're physically breaking it down. We're chewing it, we're grinding it, we're churning it to break it up into smaller pieces. Then the chemicals come in. Our enzymes are then going to chemically eat away until we have those small pieces that we need. So a pro little tip for you guys, because lots of sciencey words here. Enzymes are always going to end in ACE. So look for that ASE, and then whatever is before it, that is what it's breaking down. So lipase are breaking down lipids. That's your fat. Amylase, they're breaking down your carbohydrates, your starches. So all those chemicals coming in. And that's really our first step. That starts all the way up in the top of your digestive system. So in your mouth, you're chewing or masticating, breaking down all that food with mechanical digestion. We also have some chemical digestion going on in the mouth. Saliva has amylase to start breaking down our carbohydrates. We're then going to swallow, and that food's going to go down into the esophagus. Pretty much just a tube connecting mouth to belly. Once we're down in that belly, you can think of the stomach as like temporary storage, okay? It's going to mix that food all together, churning it, and start that physical digestion, that mechanical digestion by mixing that food around. We also get chemical digestion so that we break those things down even further. And at this point, we call the food chyme. It's no longer a solid bolus, it's a liquid called chyme. So that was all breaking down, right? Next starts the process of actually absorbing all of the good stuff. So, in the small intestine, we move from the stomach to the small intestine and we absorb a lot of our nutrients, okay? Our amino acids, our glucose, our lipids are going to get sucked up into the bloodstream. Then we move into the large intestine. We'll still have some absorption of vitamins, minerals, but also a lot of water. So, a good nursing thing to know in the small intestine, that digestive product is still really liquidy. Once it gets into the large intestine, is when a lot of that water gets absorbed back into the bloodstream and the leftovers get a little more solid. Of course, from the large intestine, we then move in to the very last thing that our digestive system does for us, which is get rid of the waste. So we transfer what is now known as stool into the rectum. That's temporary storage. And once enough builds up, pressure sensors tell us time to go to the bathroom. And we have a bowel movement. Last part of the digestive tract is that anus, where we release all of that waste. So, does that structure kind of link to that function? Does that make sense for you guys? Mouth, esophagus, stomach, we are really breaking down our nutrients, digestion. Then down into the small and large intestine. Second thing, really absorbing those nutrients. Lastly, down into the rectum and anus, getting rid of the leftovers. Those are the major structures and what they do for us. So I want to do a quick little check in. I want you guys to tell me what's the main purpose of peristalsis. That fancy word we didn't actually go over. We're going to go over it here through a question. So I want to see in the chat, in the comments, let us know A, B, C, or D here. This is a good classic example for a pre-nursing or anatomy exam. Okay. Nice job, Samari. Thanks for participating over there. LaShawn and Lisa, very good job. All right, Andrea, nice work. I love to see it. You guys are correct. C, moving one part of food from one part of the digestive tract to another. So let's go through our options. A, to eliminate undigested food. That is defecation. So that's when we go from rectum to anus, out of the body, eliminating undigested food. That third and final function that the digestive system does for us. B, grinding and tearing food into smaller parts. That's that physical digestion, specifically mastication. Fancy word for chewing. Masticate, we grind and chew, tearing apart that food. And then D, transporting nutrients into the blood and lymph capillaries. That's absorption. When we absorb, we have that food broken down already, and then the good parts get absorbed into our bloodstream so we can take it to our cells, they can get that glucose, amino acids, etc., etc. So C, moving from one part to the other, that is what we call peristalsis. So some people will describe these as waves when part of the muscle contracts and pushes that food through the digestive system. So C, that is peristalsis. All right, another check-in for you. Give me an example of mechanical digestion. Let me know down in the comments what is an example of mechanical digestion. Nice, Lisa. All right. I see these answers coming in. Keisha's got it. Ava's got it. Jan Paul, nice work. Okay. Absolutely. Samari, you are on it. Option A is correct. Mechanical digestion, the stomach contracting and actually mixing all of that food together. Because if it's physically moving it, that is mechanical digestion. If it's pancreatic secretions, if it's that enzyme like amylase or pepsin is, that is chemical. If it's a chemical, breaking chemical bonds. So pancreatic secretions, those are enzymes, amylase, lipase, pepsin. These are all enzymes. They're breaking down food. Good job. That was a tough one. Absolutely, Samari. Really good work. One more check-in for you guys before we get back to material. Why does the stomach internally have these structures called rugae? We're going to talk a little more in depth. We talked about the stomach for storing, contracting, mixing, but it has these folds, these rugae. Why would it have those? Nice, LaShawn. Absolutely. Andrea, good work. Absolutely. That's it. Good. John Paul. Finovi, absolutely. Okay, okay. You guys are getting it. You are all correct. It is B. Absolutely. Increasing surface area. And when we have more surface area, that makes us better at mechanical and chemical digestion. And you're going to see this theme as we get a little more in depth here in a second with the anatomy of our intestines. When we have folds, which we call rugae, the purpose is, if you just got a sheet of paper like this, it's flat. And then if you crumple it up, you get folds in and out here. The surface area, we can fit a lot more in a smaller area when it's all folded and crumpled up, right? We might have a sheet of paper this big, but it's folded and crumpled up. It's got all those rugae. It's going to fit right here. So in our stomach, in our intestines, we need all of these folds to fit a lot of things in a small amount of area. We need to be able to contract those muscles to mechanically break down our food and release a lot of enzymes for that chemical digestion. That's why we need rugae or folds. Let's look at how that looks in the intestines. We traveled from the mouth to the esophagus to the stomach. And we know here our food is broken down. Now it's ready to be absorbed. The small intestine has 3 parts where that absorption happens. And let me just point out here in this, I know this is just a silly little drawing, but it shows us really nice. Here is the small intestine in the middle. You see how it's all folded up, lots of folds and bends and creases, because it actually is really, really, really long. The first part, when we go from stomach to the very initial part, is called the duodenum. You'll also hear it pronounced duodenum. I tend to say duodenum, potato, potato. In the duodenum, that chyme has become really acidic from all the stomach acid. So in the duodenum, bile and pancreatic secretions are released and start to neutralize it. You can see the gallbladder here in green and the pancreas back there in yellow. They connect through the main pancreatic duct and release tons of enzymes into that duodenum. So we're getting the chyme from the stomach, all the enzymes from that main pancreatic duct, and we start to neutralize that chyme. And then the middle part, we get the jejunum. That's where we start really getting nutrient absorption, getting those amino acids into our cells, getting that glucose, that lipid, all those broken down building blocks absorbing into the blood so that we can send them out to our cells. Then the very last part down at the bottom here, before we connect to the large intestine, we have the ileum. All those nutrients, again, absorb, 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 and anything we can't absorb, we're going to send it over to the large intestine. Okay, so we've traveled all the way to here. Now, as we go through the large intestine, we got to get any last minerals and vitamins and the water. If we didn't have our large intestine, we would be dehydrated really fast because we wouldn't be able to absorb all of that liquid, right? At this point, the stool is still totally liquid. So we're going to go into the large intestine, and where that connection is called the cecum. The cecum connects that small to large intestine. Then we go up. We ascend. Our ascending colon, we absorb that water. Then we go across or transverse. The transverse colon, absorbing more water. Then we got to go back down. We descend, the descending colon. That is where we are solidifying that stool or that feces. We're getting all the last water out before transferring it over to the rectum via the sigmoid colon. You see that kind of diagonal spot right there? It goes from descending to the sigmoid colon and ultimately into the rectum for storage before we excrete that waste. So there you go. From stomach to small intestine, we got our 3 parts: duodenum, jejunum, ileum. Our ileum connects to the large intestine at the cecum. We go ascending, transverse, descending. Lastly, the sigmoid down to our rectum. All righty. You guys, you've got all the nitty gritty parts of the digestive system from mouth to anus. So let's check in. Little more of practice questions. Put these structures in order for me. These are all parts of the colon, the large intestine, but we need to put them in order. So you can give me the names, you can give me the letters, whatever works for your brain. Pop it in the comments for me. All right. Let's see. Andrea. Yes, you got it, Andrea. LaShawn, you got it too. There we go, Keisha. Yes, yes, you guys are getting it. You got to think of the shape, and that'll kind of tell you which part comes next. Vinovi, you're on it. Absolutely. Good job. Let's take a look at it together. First, we go ascending. We go up, right? Remember, the cecum is here connecting to the small intestine. Then we ascend up. So that was B. Then we go across. That's transverse. Down, descending. And lastly, a little diagonal connector here. Sigmoid is our segue from the descending to the rectum. So we got ascending, transverse, descending, and lastly, sigmoid. You guys have got it. Amazing. Okay, I think you guys are going to know the answer to this one. Why does the small intestine have villi and microvilli? What do we think? Do they produce digestive enzymes, regulate peristalsis, increase the surface area for nutrient absorption, or store bile? Good, Andrea. Yeah. All right. I've got some mixed answers here. We got some D's, some B's. All right, Jan Paul, very good, very good. Okay, so we didn't talk about the terminology of villi and microvilli. The terminology we talked about in the stomach were rugae, were all of those folds. So let me tell you exactly what a villi and a microvilli are. They are these finger-like projections in the small intestine. So you see here how we've got this wall of the small intestine, and look at all these little like tails poking out. These quote unquote finger like projections stick out at all angles. And just like the folds or rugae in the stomach, they increase the surface area. In the stomach, we needed those rugae to be able to digest, to break down. But what happens in the small intestine? Absorption. We can do that better when we have more area to work with. So all these villi and microvilli increase the surface area for nutrient absorption. Okay, what produces digestive enzymes? The pancreas. What regulates peristalsis? Peristalsis, remember, is the wave-like muscular contractions that move food along the digestive tract. Not anything to do with absorption. That's more mechanical digestion and movement. And then D, what stores bile? Well, that would be the gallbladder, that green part that we saw that released that bile into the duodenum. All right. So that tells you right there, see, increasing that surface area for nutrient absorption. That's that. Okay, how do you guys feel about the digestive system? Do we have any questions about what it does, the structure, the function, etc., etc.? What we really want to focus in on. I know a few of you are taking the TEAS, some of you are taking a med-surg exam, some of you are studying for your NCLEX. When it comes to anatomy, you have got to think about structure and function. What are the pieces? What do we call them? So all of that terminology that we went through from mouth, esophagus, stomach, rugae, small intestine, all of those different components, duodenum, jejunum, ileum, you've got to know the terms. And then you've got to know what they do. Why are they there? The rest you'll be able to figure out. So thumbs up. We're feeling great. Samari has on it. She's ready to go. If you are not feeling ready to go, if you're like, oh my gosh, please slow down, do not move on, I do want to give you two resources. First and foremost, if you need a tutor, we've got a tutor. You know, no one was ever meant to do this alone, all right? Nursing's a team sport. And if you don't already have a mentor, we would love to be your mentor. Remember, my life mission, I want more people to become nurses. So if I can help you do that, please scan the QR code, head over to our site. We will set you up with a mentor. Okay. You don't have to do this alone. This is too hard. This stuff is too hard to do alone. Okay. The other thing, if you want to watch this lecture again, if you want to get the notes to this, if you want to do practice questions about this, any of that, let me show you where to get it. Okay. Head over to archerreview.com, go up to nursing at the top, of course, and then click on your exam. I know several of you told me TEAS, so let's click on TEAS here and then go ahead and come down. I want to show you first and foremost, here are all the webinars, always free, multiple times a week. You can register for all of them and join with us right here, okay? Now, you can also go ahead and get our question bank. You can get our videos. What I really want you to utilize, though, is the combo. Our Sure Pass program is going to include lots of practice questions, lots of videos, and bonus resources like cheat sheets, etc. So pick however long you need it. We're going to keep it nice and cheap, starting at $29. When you log in over here, you'll see you have your question bank where you can take lots of practice questions. You can decide exactly what type of questions you want. So let's say, for example, I just want to do, a quick little check, make sure I understood the digestive system. So let's go here and let's make sure we pick just science and just S.1. I just want to do anatomy and physiology because I'm studying for the TEAS. Even more specifically, I just want to make sure I understood this digestive system. All right. So I'm just going to pick that. We're going to make our test and boom, we're going to have a customized practice test specific to what we just studied. What enzyme do the salivary glands secrete to begin the digestion of starch? Pretty sure that's amylase. Let's see. Boom. I got it. I have my explanation. I know why. And I even have a video to explain that correct answer. If I can't finish it right now, let's just pause my test. We're going to pause it. I'm going to finish it later. Maybe I really wasn't so sure. So I'm actually going to go and watch this video again. For all of you who want to be able to see any of our lectures on demand, this is where you get them. You come to your T7, you click on demand videos. Excuse me, I knew I was about to sneeze. I was trying to stop it, but I couldn't stop my sneeze. So our videos, like I was saying, you can filter them up here at the top, science, or you can just go right in the search bar. Digestive system is what I want to see. Here is the video, and here are the notes. So for those of you who want the notes, let's pause this video. There's the handout right there. We're going to click it. Boom, digestive system. We've got the PDF. We're ready to go. The other really cool thing, we also have cheat sheets. I just want to show you guys this. Do you not love a good cheat sheet? Look at this. We've got all the structures, the functions, all those key points that we just talked about. It's a nice little one-pager, like before you go take a test or anything, okay? So again, it's at archerreview.com. I'll go ahead and pop the links. Let's go up right here. We're going to pop the links so that you guys can have them, can scan that QR code for any mentoring. Any questions about that at all? Anything you guys need me to answer before we move on and go into our next system? Next, we are talking about the nervous system. I like to just pause about halfway through because it gets to be a lot. It gets to be a little overwhelming. And I want to make sure you guys have the resources to follow up with afterwards. I should also make sure that you guys have our email while I'm waiting for questions. Any questions at all? Maybe we end the webinar. You're like, oh my gosh, I didn't ask Morgan this. I don't understand, my mechanical versus chemical digestion. You can email us right here. This is not going to be a tech support person. This is going to be us, our nurses, our pre-nursing team here to actually answer your questions. Okay. So I've popped that in there. Hopefully, you know where to go for any additional help afterwards. And we will just keep on plugging along. Can I get thumbs up, hearts in the comments, whatever works if you are ready to go into the nervous system? It was enough of a little brain break. We feel good. I love those hearts, LaShawn. Thank you. Amazing. Samari asked, awesome question. Do I do any tutoring? I do not have any one-on-one slots. My time does not allow for that any longer, which is why we have an awesome, awesome team available. Trust me, you guys, you do not want me tutoring you in math and English and reading. We have experts here for that. So that's why we've got this whole team built out. Thank you for asking, Samari. That was very kind. Without further ado, our presentation. Let's talk nervous system. All right, who wants to take a stab at it? Why do we have a nervous system? What the heck is this doing in our body? Where is it in our body? This is kind of a tricky one. Yeah. With the digestive system, there were three big things. It was going to break down our food, absorb our food, and get rid of the waste. With the nervous system, it's a little hard to wrap our head around. It's our brain, it's our spinal cord, so right here in the middle of our body, but it's also all the nerves that connect the outside world to the inside. So I think of the nervous system as our connector, as that system that tells us what's going on outside. It sends that info up to the brain, and our brain tells us what to do with it. So let's start with structure. What are the parts? What are the words you've got to know? Brain, spinal cord, nerves. The brain's obviously up here in your head. Spinal cord comes down in the middle and it connects out to the nerves. What does it do? It helps us communicate both inside of our body and with the outside world. What's it communicating about? This key word right here, homeostasis. Who's heard that word before? Who can tell me what it means? Pop that definition in the comments for me. Homeostasis. If you don't know homeostasis, you're not going to understand the nervous system very well. Homeostasis is when we stay in balance. I like what LaShawn said, a stable environment. It's going to keep things even and regulated. So it gets information, determines what to do with it, sends out signals to keep us in balance, to maintain homeostasis. So let's look at how it's broken down. There's two main parts, and this is pretty simple. It's central and peripheral. In the central nervous system, or the CNS, we have the brain and the spinal cord. So that's the orange part that you see right here. But we have to connect that brain and spinal cord to the rest of our body. And we do that with the peripheral nervous system, or the PNS. These are the nerves that go throughout our whole body. They all branch off the spinal cord. So spinal cord here, and then all of that, this other color, kind of green, yellowish here, that is the peripheral nervous system, or the PNS. Okay, so check in with me. Tell me how you're feeling. What is the primary function of the nervous system? Why do we have it? What does it do for us? Okay, nice, Andrea. You're fast on the draw. I like it. Lisa, LaShawn, Keisha, you guys are ready. Okay. Florentina, very nice. Guchin, Samari, you guys have got it. It's controlling and coordinating bodily functions, okay? Yeah, it has to do with body temperature. Yeah, it controls and coordinates a lot of different things that keep our body in that homeostasis, in that balanced, stable environment. So tell me, the term central nervous system, what does it refer to? Before we go even deeper, which ones of these are in our central nervous system? Good. This is a tricky one. I'm just going to say this one definitely, if you move too fast, you could get this one wrong. What is a part of the CNS, the central nervous system? Yep. Nice, Samari. Nice. Florentina, Lisa. Very good. Very good, Jan Paul. Darina over there on Instagram. Nice job. Thanks for participating. It, in fact, is D. Just the brain and spinal cord. Don't make it too complicated. Let's actually go back to this image because I just want you to see. Central nervous system is right here. Brain and spinal cord. Okay, so a lot of you wanted to include those cranial nerves. You really wanted C to be correct. But the cranial nerves, even though they're attached to the spinal cord, they're attached. They're not actually part of it. So cranial nerves, spinal nerves, autonomic somatic nerves, peripheral. They are all on the outside bringing information back. Samari said it in the chat. The nerves are part of the PNS, the peripheral nervous system. Only things that are central, brain, check, spinal cord, check, nothing else. Okay. So let's actually dive deeper into that peripheral nervous system to get some clarification here. Okay. Because, yeah, central nervous system, brain, and spinal cord, but we got a lot of other things going on out there in that peripheral nervous system. All the nerves are a part of the PNS. We've got cranial nerves and we've got spinal nerves. Cranial nerves, there's 12 of them. They attach to that spinal cord. The spinal nerves, they're farther out there in the periphery. And there are two types. We've got sensory, that's also called afferent with an A. And we've got motor, which is also called efferent or an M. What do they do? What's the difference? You guys can probably figure this out. Sensory nerves sense, our sense organs like our nose, our touch receptors, our ears. They sense all the things out there and they send those sensations up the sensory nerves. Those sensory nerves bring it up to the brain and spinal cord. They tell the brain and spinal cord, hey, I smell a gas leak. Oh my gosh, the brain thinks about that and starts to send signals down the motor or efferent nerves away to those other nerves so we can actually elicit a response. Motor, we're going to go in motion. Sensory, we're sensing, we're sending information up. Motor, we're acting, we're in motion. Okay, there's two different ways we can be in motion. We can think about it and voluntarily do it. That's our somatic system. Or it can be a reflex, an involuntary automatic response that we have no control over. And that is our autonomic nervous system. So when your brain has sensed that gas leak, your sense organ picked up on it, you smelled it, it sent that information up, and then your brain said, hey, you got to leave. You voluntarily picked up your leg and moved it to exit the building. What you didn't do is increase your heart rate and start breathing faster because you were a little scared. That was your autonomic system. It was automatic. It controls your heart, your smooth muscle, your glands, the things you got no control over. Somatic, that is the voluntary, I'm going to move my legs. I'm going to pick this up. I'm going to move my body. Okay. So two different ways we have motor, somatic, autonomic. Autonomic is automatic. We respond without any control. And we can respond in two different ways. We either chill out, we rest and digest, or we freak out, we fight or flight. Fight or flight, our sympathetic nervous system is when we automatically respond and we're like, oh my gosh, there's a gas leak. I got to get out of here. My heart rate goes up. I'm breathing fast. My pupils dilate. I am scared. Or, oh my gosh, I smell, spaghetti cooking on the stove. That's so nice. I think I'm going to take a nap on the couch. We rest and digest. Our heart rate goes down. Our pupils constrict. Our breathing slows. And our blood actually goes to those digestive organs because we're ready for some spaghetti and meatballs. We don't have to run away from a gas leak, fight a bear. We are resting and digesting. Okay, that's a lot of categorization. This whole chart, this looks like it's going to be simple, but it's a lot of words. Do you guys have any questions about the organization of the nervous system, how it works, this terminology? I guarantee you, you are going to see some of these terms on your exam, whether it's the TEAS, the HESI, an anatomy exam, even on the NCLEX. Everybody feel good here? What do we think? All right, we're rocking. It's a lot of information. I agree. This might be a section that you need to go back to and watch again. So, a reminder, once you're logged in to your account, you've purchased SurePass, you come down to your T7 on demand videos. Let's go all the way up here. Let's search for this video so you guys can find it later. We've got nervous system right here. This is that nervous system video, so you can watch this again and you can actually see, okay, we're going to go through the peripheral versus the central nervous system. So you can skip right to it right there. It's the breakdown. And then you can go to the handouts right there, okay? Perfect. I'm glad you guys are feeling good. Hopefully it's not too much. We've gone through that organization, central, peripheral. Let's do some knowledge checks. Okay. Preparing the body for fight or flight. Which division of the nervous system? Sympathetic, parasympathetic, somatic, or sensory? All right. You guys, you're so good. I love it. Yes, yes, yes. You're on it. A, sympathetic. We're fighting or flighting. Parasympathetic. Rest and digest. Absolutely. Okay, you guys, I have just one more key nervous system topic for you. We're going to get a little more granular and actually talk about the cells that are in these nerves. You guys know how the nervous system is set up, structure, function. But the smallest structure is the actual cell that makes up our nerves, and it's called a neuron. It is a cluster of nerve cells. They communicate to send and receive information. There's a few parts that you have to know. First is the cell body, right here in the middle. It has the organelles and the nucleus. It's the little brain of the neuron. Secondly, you have the dendrite. These are the fibers that actually carry information towards the cell body. So we've got information out here, the dendrites pick it up and bring it into the cell body. Then we have to send that information away, which we do through the axon. It's a fiber that carries that information away from the cell body. And where does it go? To the next cell. Neurons communicate with each other. So you can see we've got a neuron here, we've got a neuron here. We've got those dendrites, they're sensing information, sending it to the cell body and down the axon. Here's the end of the axon here. And oh my gosh, I've now got to send the information to the next cell. How's it gonna do that? With something called neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are these little chemical messengers that go from one cell to the next cell and carry information. But they have to go across a gap. The dendrite doesn't plug right into the axon. Okay, axon here, boop, 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 dendrite here. There's the gap. And we call this gap the synapse or the synaptic cleft. So the neurotransmitters, they got to swim across that synapse. And if they're strong enough, if there's enough of them for their signal to be received, then the dendrite of that neighboring cell will pick it up, transmit it to the cell body, and down the next axon. It keeps on going. Dendrite, cell body, axon. The neurotransmitter goes over the synaptic cleft and to the next dendrite. So, if you ask me, it's a little bit of a complicated situation for communicating with each other, but that's how our nervous system actually sends all of those signals that we just talked about on a cellular level. So, all the way from sense organs up to the brain and spinal cord, that CNS, down to the efferent motor neurons of the PNS, and whether they are voluntary or involuntary, sympathetic or parasympathetic, they're all working for these neurons with those neurotransmitters. So there's a lot going on there, right? Let's kind of do a knowledge check. Last little knowledge check. We'll build on that concept. Tell me the part of the neuron that receives the signals from another neuron. What is it? The receiver. Axon, dendrites, nucleus, myelin sheath. Nice. There we go. All right. Andrea's on it. Assumpta over there on YouTube, really good. LaShawn is on it. Happy to see it. Good, good, good. Absolutely. Receiving here is the dendrite. All right, the dendrite. I had to click on that so many times to get it to show you the answer. Oh my gosh. So remember, dendrites, they receive the information. They send it to the cell body. The cell body decides what to do. They send it down that axon across a synapse and over to the next dendrite, the next axon. Now, we've talked about all of that. How is it transmitted down this long nerve fiber, down this, let's show all those parts, axon over here? Well, we need a little help. When we're sending electricity, we've got to get insulation so that that signal can actually be passed on. If we've just got a bunch of spare electrical wires hanging out everywhere, all that electricity is just going to kind of jump and not be organized, right? The axon needs insulation. And that, my friends, is myelin sheath. So you see these big little blobs right here? These are literally just insulation helping wrap up that nerve fiber, that axon, so that we can send the signal in a clear path all the way down that axon. So that is myelin sheath on the axon. That is all part of what sends that signal down. The dendrites, that is what receives the signal. Okay? So I'm really hoping all of you guys are going to get this one. The gap between communicating neurons, we just talked about myelin sheath. We just talked about dendrites. What's the gap between the communicating neurons? Yes, Florentina, Andrea, LaShawn, you guys are on it. You're remembering. I love it. I love to hear it. Yes, yes, yes. You guys are absolutely all right. That gap is the synapse or synaptic cleft. I kind of like synaptic cleft because I'm like, oh, it's a cleft. It's a gap. Like that name makes sense for me. So that helps my brain kind of keep it organized. All right. You guys, we went through a lot of terminology there between the neuron, looking at the dendrite, the cell body, the axon, the myelin sheath wrapping it all up, the neurotransmitter going across the synaptic cleft right here. If that wasn't enough, at the cellular level, now you guys have to remember all those organizations between the CNS and PNS. Remember the central nervous system right here in the middle. It's just the brain and the spinal cord. Everything else out there is that peripheral nervous system. All those nerves. If it's a nerve, it is peripheral. And there's a lot of branches. It breaks up into motor and sensory. We've got somatic, our voluntary, or our autonomic involuntary. And if it is involuntary, it can go up or down. Sympathetic for fight or flight, parasympathetic for rest and digest. So, tons of terms that I threw your way. How do you guys feel about all those words? Do you kind of get a gist of the structure of the nervous system and what it does for our body as the communicator that helps us maintain homeostasis? Thank you, Jan Paul. Glad to hear it. Good, because it's a lot of stuff. Oh my gosh. I'm glad you guys are still hanging with me. You haven't ditched. Really, really glad to hear that. Okay. Well, I want to remind you guys, we are still here for you after this webinar, okay? I'm putting all the things on one slide. You've got our email, you've got our website, you've got our Instagram, our YouTube. You can go watch all our lectures by signing up for Sure Pass. I am going to be back with you guys for another science lecture on our A&P. It is going to be on March 28th. So just a little over a week away. And we are going over our part 3, where we talk about muscular and skeletal systems. So I'm putting that date down below in our chats and comments. You guys can join, bring your friends. Don't forget, in the meantime, you can head over to that website and go ahead and get that Sure Pass so that you can watch all of our lectures and get all of the notes anytime. But make sure to let your friends know they can come join these webinars anytime. We want them to try it out and make sure that it is a good fit. Any last questions before we all sign off and go enjoy our evenings? All right. Glad to hear you're enjoying that Q Bank Samari. That's what we want. We want this to be the best practice for you guys so that when you go take your exams, you're not surprised at all. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for being here. So appreciative of all of you. I cannot wait to be back with you for another lecture on March 28th. Bring a friend, and I will see you there. Remember that none of this is easy, but I promise it is worth it. In fact, nothing easy was ever worth it. You guys are putting in the hard work, and it is going to pay off. I believe in you. I thank you for joining us today, and I'll see you next time.